Hey, everybody. I'm Dr. Maureen Hayes from Galveston, Texas, and this is the ASEA 5. We've swelled tonight because it's a special edition. We are now the ASEA 7 just for one night. So you know me, I'm Dr. Maureen Hayes from Galveston, Texas, past anesthesiologist and pain specialist, got out of pain, now doing redox full time. And the other regulars are our money man, Jim Glenn from San Antonio, Texas, and his beautiful wife, Ann, who is a personal trainer and nutritionist. And of course, we have the ever famous author of Redox Matters, Dr. Lee Osler from Washington State. And we have three incredible guests with us tonight, two from Spokane, Washington. You've probably seen them before. They're fan favorites. Jerry White, who's a physical therapist from Washington State, also a triathlete and a coach. It has just an incredible fund of knowledge. And also Dr. Dick Walker, who is now retired, finally, is doing redox full time as well, ER doctor for a long time, and incredible mountain climber. In fact, he's scaled Mount Everest, which I just think is the coolest thing. And we're also joined by Lisa Simmons from Nashville. She's a nurse practitioner with a huge fund of knowledge. And so we're going to hear from each of these people, kind of find out what attracted them as healthcare professionals to ASEA and how they're using it in their life to live the best life possible. But I have to say, although we have a ton of medical professionals on this call, this is not a medical company. It's not a medical product. We're not here to cure, treat, diagnose anything. What we do is we use redox technology to boost our cells' ability to do their job better. And when your cells do their job, it works like you're much younger. And so it's actually like we're aging in reverse. So it's a lot of fun. And when the body is given the right tools, as Dr. Lee always says, you turn on that inner doctor and your body knows what to do. So with that said, let's first bring on Jerry White, because he's actually the grandfather of a lot of us and he's the reason why most of us are in this business. So Jerry, come on and tell us how you got started, what you saw, and how it's changed your life.
Maureen, you're getting good at this.
I've been doing it for a year and a half. Hopefully I'm getting
And then, when your mom tells you to smile on stage all the time, you got it down. So perfect.
Oh, good.
Well, it's such a great honor to be together as we grow, as we get more impressive people all the time coming into ASEA. And my original experience with ASEA was what came at a time when I was so focused on something that I was trying to help stay alive, and that I had put my heart and soul into. I wasn't allowing myself to lift up and see that we were drowning. You just keep going. And somebody said, I was going to do this until it kills me, and it nearly killed me, what I was doing before. And I was working with something that just could not be restarted. And so I got approached by a couple of ladies that most of you know that I had known for 18 years in another group before, and that's Trish Swinkler and Denny Robinson. Now, Denny was somebody that was in my group before, and she had faded away when her daughter got sick. And the two of them gave me a call, and they said, we've just come out of this amazing meeting with a few people that were putting this company together. And they said, it's astounding. In fact, it's so big, we can't even wrap our heads around whether this is true or not. And I have this reputation for spending a lot of my time diving into the science up to my belly button, having a blast and learning about things. And in my lab at the Shriners Hospital, it was designed to look at how the life turned out for a lot of these kids neurologically. That neurologic problem then means that they started moving differently. Their muscles, their body was actually being in control in a different way. And many of the times it would warp the bones, or it wouldn't allow the legs to swing free. And they had really difficult problems as a result of their damage. And so a lot of innovative new surgical procedures had to be done. And my lab was created to actually predict the outcomes for the surgeries that people were proposing. Wouldn't that be a better thing if rather than just doing them, but to be able to predict the outcomes? And so I got a chance to see some of the most cutting edge stuff in the world. The budgets were almost wide open, the way that was a funded system, and they could bring the families in for as many as 17 days to 30 days if they wanted to, or even more. And it was completely free to the family. It was completely free medical care for the kids, for the family, and they'd bring them from all over the world. So it allowed us to get much more deeply into the science and the functional medicine that was required to just look at some really, really difficult things. So as a result, I got a chance to pop the lid on a lot of different things that were going on around in the world that a normal day-to-day practice wouldn't allow me to do. You just kind of have to keep up, treading water faster, and it's difficult to learn new things. Well, once I got a chance to, they called me and they said, do this for us, if you would, please. Just go down to Salt Lake and talk to Dr. Samuelson, who was the one who stabilized it, and the founders of the company. And I sat down with him. And when I walked out that door, all those years of being able to research on the outside cutting edge perimeter I had so many questions from all of that work that were all of a sudden answered. This idea of ASEA, the idea of the body using communication tools, signaling at the most fundamental level down at the cells, started peeling back and answering questions that we never even knew we would in our lifetimes ever answer. And so that was an absolutely intriguing possibility to start with. A second thing that touched me was the absolute heart of the founders and what they were after. And a third was that I always wanted somebody to be that could teach me to live a better, higher life. Time was a major problem for me, and I didn't come home enough to see my kids. I didn't know a way out. And this was a chance to work with some people who had some leverage concepts that would provide you with enough to gain your time back, to go back and be with the family, and yet also make the biggest possible difference you could in the world with this much bigger than you could with a one-to-one patient advocacy. The next thing that was really interesting to me was that the amount of good that I could do in the world, but mostly the coaching. I was involved at a high level in coaching athletes in swimming and triathlons and years and years and years and years and years paying a price to try to qualify for something every 4 years. And in the emotional energy, the physical energy that went into that was astounding. And I love the pursuit of excellence far beyond what you ever imagined you could be. So the coaching part, putting teams of people together to find who they were and what they could become, all fit. So you can imagine all this stuff pouring into my head at the same time. And I had one final thing that was holding me back. And that I always felt that I was supposed to get permission from someone to do things. That I could take all this and say, this is to be the most astounding thing I've ever put into practice. I started using it on different situations, and it was as true as what they said and many times more. But getting the permission to follow that dream, to follow that new path, I just couldn't come up with it. Then my wife just sort of hit me over the head with a rock when she said, this made so much difference in our daughter that stop spinning around on the living room floor, pop the clutch, and get moving. That was the permission I needed. So that's kind of a complex sort of look at what brought me into it. but it didn't matter which direction I looked. I kept getting validation that was stronger than it ever had been before in anything I'd ever done. And eventually I just had to do it.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow.
That's the start.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
We'll have
did you
to come
mention
back
you were a
around.
physical therapist, Jerry? So that I'm not sure.
Yeah. I retired as a physical therapist, and it was
Okay.
on the research side of that, which was, I actually went into school looking to try to go into medicine. And I I went on rounds with an internist, like some of them, like Dr. Walker came out to be at first. And the first time I ever got an experience in the hospital after putting myself to the grades and all that in college. And I had a guy that said, you want to come on rounds with me? And my heart was to take people from here to here. And medicine was to take them from severe to sort of up here. And so I went on these rounds, and there were so many people who were sick that weren't doing anything for themselves. And the hours were lousy, and it was in the middle of the day or in the middle of the night when I went on these rounds. And people just didn't seem to care for themselves or do the work for themselves. And that was it. I was done after that. And so that I needed to go into something where it was those people that were trying to achieve that extra in life. And physical therapy gave me an option to do that. The coaching
Jerry,
part.
Yeah.
You also taught exercise physiology, correct? And you were adjunct.
Yeah. I was teaching not only exercise physiology, but medical physiology, because the lab was so cutting edge that was established by grace of the Shriners Hospital that I was working with. It was way ahead of its time. And so many of the surgeons that were coming through in their residency and they're just getting into pediatrics. They were kind of taking the rounds and going into pediatrics. And so it was my job as an adjunct professor to teach them some of the way out there stuff, review what we've learned before in science and physiology and in biomechanics, but then to apply it to these wild sort of things. So I was an adjunct professor of those things. Coolest job being an adjunct professor, because you don't have to grade the papers. You just go in and do really amazing things and knock the ball out of the park and get people to interact and create new ideas, but you don't have to grade. You don't have to go to the meetings on budget and that sort of thing, and you don't have to grade the papers. So what do you want? That was pretty good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. Can you go ahead and intro, because you are great friends with Dr. Walker. Can you go ahead and intro Dr. Walker?
Well, yeah. Dr. Walker and I have so many things in common, and one of them is the love of the mountains. And so as you can see, the mountains grow trees, and the trees make logs. And these logs back here that are in this log house, as I was building this log house, and I happened to have a need to go to the minor emergency clinic, and my lucky break, I've got this finger sort of dangling off the end, and I go to this minor emergency clinic, and I get the guy who owned a bunch of them, and here he comes, Dr. Walker, and he goes, "How'd you do that?" And I said, "On a draw knife." And he goes, "A draw knife? It's only one reason for a draw knife. That's to peel logs and take the bark off of them." So he said, one thing led to another. He sewed my finger back together, and he said, "I've wanted to build a log house for a long time, I'm right there." And so invited him to come out. It took a while, but he finally got here. And that was probably 25 years ago.
Wow.
And when he got out of his car, you can all imagine a mental picture of a frog in a blender, but after the frog heals up a little bit and sort of got this limp and this ache and pain and this groaning sound, that was Dr. Walker at the time. He was a very, very, very uncomfortable guy. And we worked together to try to come up with some new ideas to help him get better. And then I find out he's a professional whitewater rafting guide, and he's take these shots at Everest. He's a couple of expeditions to the South Pole, and I'm going, her. And we just we were just mountain men. And so we got together. It turns out we lived 3 miles apart, and we started a venture in this industry called network marketing, and in a kind of science-based movement. And when I finally came to him with this, it was a continuation of a lifestyle that we wanted together. And so Dr. Walker was somebody that, riding bikes and canoeing and I mean, all this stuff we could do together. And it was this extra level. So when we got together for this, it was magic to just have a guy time. And then Nancy came along. His wife was like the ultimate fairy godmother. She's the nicest person. She's always doing stuff for everybody. Very professional, dental hygienist as well. So, different kind of intro, but
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
you would
like the
think
background.
that we'd all kind of mix with the science part. But here's the secret: Dr. Walker is also an incredibly experienced investor and business owner and rancher. So those parts are really interesting to know about him as well. So I wanted to just kind of open up. He's got so many things that he does well. If you're the one that you fall off your tractor and you get sucked up in the baler, he's the guy you want to see. He's as good as they come. So Dr. Dick Walker, we've been together for a long time, and now he's one of the top levels in our business, and really we're so grateful.
Absolutely. Dr. Walker,
Glad you're here.
Yeah.
share your story, boss.
So I really was as busy as Jerry says when this first came along. So don't let anybody ever tell you that they're too busy to take a look at ASEA, because I took a look at ASEA because I was busy. Jerry and I have a history of having been in another company before, and that company sort of went sideways on us. And I didn't have time to go look for another company, but I wanted another network marketing company because I love this business model. And I knew that it was the only way I was going to get the freedom back in my life that I needed so that I could go find some more mountains to climb and some whitewater rivers to run. And I said, Jerry, go find a good company with a great product, with great timing, and don't come and talk to me until you find it, because I didn't want to look at anything else. And so I went back to work and was working ungodly hours. I actually enjoyed emergency medicine, maybe a little bit too much. I spent a lot of time at it. I didn't spend a lot of time with my family or my kids. And, I had a big financial nut to crack, but I was looking for freedom, but I wasn't looking for freedom with just a company that didn't have anything meaningful. And as it is, I started seeing some references to redox signaling in some of my scientific literature. But everything, and it sounded really intriguing because it sounded to me like the Fountain of Youth, and I was in my early 60s at the time, and I really was saying no to getting older, and so it looked like redox signaling might have an answer to slow the aging process and keep me healthy, so I can do crazy things. And then Jerry says, "Hey, there's a company that has redox signaling molecules." And I said, no way, because everything I've read said that you can't stabilize these things. There's no way you could put them in a bottle and do anything with them, because they're ephemeral, they're fleeting in nature. They're wonderful, but you could never corral them. They're like a bunch of wild horses or wild monkeys in the jungle. You can never put them in a bottle and send them to somebody's house. So Jerry said, no, they've figured it out. And I said, well, prove it to me. And he said, well, let's go to Salt Lake next weekend. And I think that was, I don't know if that was the same trip Jerry was talking about, or maybe the second one, because Trish was there and Denny was there. It was, here it is, it works. And yes, it's made from salt water. Don't be afraid of that. And I said, well, if it works, I'm all over this, because nobody else has anything like this. Nobody else has anything that can do what this does. So we've got a monopoly, a wonderful product, a great technology, a new company, where we can really set some records and establish a standard, and that's what we were all about in the early days with ASEA. And so we were into having fun and certainly making some money and certainly helping some people, and that's how we got started. My background is internal medicine. I've mostly practiced emergency medicine. I also have, and this is something that people kind of scratch their head about, because why would an emergency doctor have a degree in preventive medicine? But I'm also interested in that side of things. And that's, I think, why I was so intrigued with the SIA and why I just loved natural ways of empowering people to regain their health and to maintain their health and to improve their performance. And I just really am upset that ASEA didn't come along early enough that I could have taken it on my some of my big mountaineering expeditions, because it would have really given me a lot more power to and a lot less agony on those big tall mountains where there's not enough oxygen to go around. So but I'm grateful for it now, and I love it. And I, when somebody asks me about 2 or 3 times a week, somebody will say, well, how long do you have to take this stuff? And I say, well, I don't know. I've been on it for 9 years, and I plan on being around for another 20 or 30, and I probably will not give it up because it's such a wonderful product and I feel so good when I take it. So why would you even think about stopping it? So.
Now, Dick, you had an experience with the molecules that is unusual, because you had an episode, something happened to you 4 or 5 years into your journey, correct?
Yeah, I've had a number of experiences, but I suppose you're talking about my blood pressure. But yeah, I whenever I put that thing around my arm and check the numbers, they were too high unless I took 4 or 5 different medicines. And that started in my late 20s, I think. And every couple of years, they'd have to add another drug to keep it down in the normal range. And then I think it was about 4 years into ASEA, I started to notice I was getting really lightheaded when I would sit up or stand up really fast. And one day I almost fainted. So the inner doctor in me said, check your blood pressure. Actually, I think Nancy said, let's check your blood pressure. It was ridiculously low. And I said, boy, maybe I don't need all that medicine. So I called my internist and he said, yeah, get in here and we'll make sure it is that low and we'll start getting rid of some of those medicines. I said, yeah, we better get rid of them fast because I can't even stand up without fainting. And so that was 5-6 years ago, and I haven't taken any blood pressure medicine since. So I'm not saying that ASEA cured my blood pressure. What I'm saying is that ASEA made my cardiovascular system so healthy that those numbers got better, however you want to look at that. I also wore my knee and a few other body parts out doing all that climbing, and had to have a total knee a couple years ago. And I had it at the beginning of the ski season, and I was bound and determined to go skiing that year anyway. So I was going through about a tube of Renew every couple of days on that knee. And I was back downhill skiing the last weekend of ski season, 90 days after total knee replacement. No pain, no limited motion, still a little swelling. My orthopedist thought I was crazy. Nancy thought I was crazy. Jerry thought it was a good idea. And it worked. So yeah, I mean, my orthopedist said, I would never let anybody go skiing any quicker than 6 months. And I said, well, the ski season is going to be long over and it's going to be too early for the next one. So I'm going to go skiing this weekend, and worked out great. So
Yeah, get it
Real
clear.
quick,
Here's another thing, though, that he has forgotten to tell you is that because of the need for the high level of activity for him to actually be the stunt double on Indiana Jones movies. Can you see the resemblance, everybody?
absolutely.
Sure.
Dick, share real quick about your mom with her.
Oh, yeah, my mom was, fortunately, my mom, I got my, I can tell you where I traced my interest in getting that degree in preventive medicine. It was my mom, because she was into natural cooking, nutritional supplements and everything long before anybody else was. My friends would come over to the house and said, "What's with your mom? How come she doesn't cook the food all the way through? The vegetables are crisp and what's in those bottles? And so my mom was a natural health person long before it was popular, and I think that's where I got my interest to begin with. But so she was open to this. She was really open to. She trusted me, and she didn't trust everything I was talking about doctor stuff, but she trusted me when I talked about nutritional stuff. And so I said, "Mom, you got to take this stuff because it's anti-aging." And she was in her late 80s, early 90s when she started, and it really did help her a great deal. And one of the things that was going on with her is that she had a problem with her central vision, and one of the things that she enjoyed the most was reading. I mean, she was a voracious reader, And it got to the point where she couldn't read anymore. And that was really a major bummer from my mom. But fortunately, after she started the ASEA, at some point, her vision started to improve. And in fact, she was having to have injections in her eyes and going to the eye doctor, much to her dismay. And she quit going to the eye doctor. She said, I'm not going to go there anymore. It's too cold. It's wintertime. I'm not going to get in the car to go see that guy. And by springtime, her vision was a lot better, to the point where she could read a poster across the room. And she, had a short stint in the hospital. And I said, Mom, what's going on? Maybe we should go back and let the eye doctor take a look at your eyes and see what's going on. So I finally convinced her. He dilated her up, looked at her. He says, Florence, I don't know what's going on. I've never seen this happen, but that little spot in the back of your eye, it's getting better. And she said, yeah, I could have told you that because I can see a lot better than I could 6 months ago. And I haven't been in to see you for 6 months, because he was trying to blame it on his treatment, which he hadn't gotten for 6 or 8 months. And so, yeah, this ASEA can do some great stuff. Just
There's another little story that I tell about Dick's or his mom better than he does. And that was.
I'm glad you're here, Jerry, to help out.
She was one of my best guinea pigs, along with Nancy.
And once he started to get her on this, she was living by herself and just really going for it in her 90s. And until the sight came along, that was difficult. And she kind of started to lose her memory a little bit, maybe because she was focusing on other things. But he had to call her up all the time and say, Mom, it's time to take your ASEA. It turned out it was fairly similar time every day. And so she finally, I think she called him and said, okay, Richard, I know it's only 10 minutes to 10 and you are going to call me, but don't call me because I remembered. So she began to start to remember that a lot more things. And so that's a part of life that I think we often discount. We look at a lot of the ones that are really physically obvious, but the ones that really are most moving in people is when they can see again, when they can remember again, when they can begin to start to have that whole fulfilled feeling and joy and hope for the future and all that sort of stuff. And so that's kind of what stuck in my mind most about her story.
I'd forgotten that part. The other thing that kind of bugged me was her memory got better. She got more physically capable of doing things. And she was living on the farm with us at the time. And she started coming out and trying to tell me how to do things on the farm that I wasn't really wanting advice about. But you got to love her. I mean, she really regained a lot with the ASEA. It was pretty amazing to see that in somebody in their late 80s, early 90s. So it was amazing.
Yeah. That's
All
all.
right, well, we got the new kid on the block.
Yep. Lisa Simmons.
Lisa
from
Simmons.
Nashville.
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
Tell us a little bit about your journey, Miss Lisa.
So my journey on ASEA, so I've been around for about 18 months. I actually got introduced to it kind of on a fluke. I really wasn't looking for anything, but I've been in healthcare for 25 years. And I've just seen over the years how people have gotten sicker and sicker and sicker. And being at the bedside with patients and seeing them on 20 and 30 different medications and wondering why they don't feel good. I've always wanted to kind of get down to the root problem. So that's kind of where my goal has been. I have a current job, but then I also do health coaching on the side because myself have been like a yo-yo dieter my whole life. And so I started looking at nutrition as more of medication for myself. So I'm a guinea pig. I try everything on myself. And it was a fluky phone call to a girlfriend, Holly Clardy. I had actually dialed her by accident. And she said, but wait, while I have you on the phone, let me tell you about this. And it really got my attention. Especially because it was native to the body. It was non-toxic. It wouldn't interact with anything. And I was like, oh, let me investigate this a little bit further. And the next thing she knew, I was an associate on her team and she had no idea. And I was like, oh, no, I need to do this. Like, I'm drawn to this. I have to do this. So I started really getting into it. It was really funny because I full-blown menopause and was having a lot of hot flashes. Like, it was driving me crazy. But I did not want to be one that took something that was synthetic in my body, because my goal is to live well into my 90s. If I make it to 100, it'd be fantastic, but I don't ever want to take any medication. So, and I just want to do things through lifestyle and how can I take care of myself the best way that I can do it. So it was funny. I was taking the product regularly for about 6 months, and out of the blue, I was like, man, I'm still having hot flashes. Maybe I need to go up a little bit. So I increased how much I was taking. And then within 4 days, I noticed I wasn't having hot flashes anymore.
How much
And
were you
they've been
taking?
gone
Lisa?
ever since. Huh?
How much were you taking, and how long you been doing this?
So
18
I
months.
upped
18
it
months,
to,
okay.
yeah. So so that was at 6 months. So for about the past year, I've been taking 6 ounces twice a day. So 12 ounces a day, and I don't have hot flashes. So I tell everybody that's kind of like my sweet spot, and I know that. I take more sometimes. So like if I'm sick or I don't feel good, I increase how much I take, and I'm better in a day or two, and I just go about my business. But it definitely has been a game changer for me. And it's really funny because I still get amazed by it every single day, even for myself. I'm over 50, I'll be honest. I have arthritis just like anybody else over the age of 30. And today my finger was killing me. I have arthritis in this finger. So a little while ago, I was rubbing the Renew 28 all over my finger, and I can bend it. And it doesn't hurt anymore. I was telling my husband, it just amazes me. Just every day, it still amazes me. And it's just stuff like that. And it's so fun because you just don't realize it. And my husband, who's a big skeptic, I used it on his back, and he's like, my back pain went away. What? And so it's fun. And I know that it really works. So that makes it very easy to share. And I love telling people about it because you believe in what it does for people. I've never seen something that really, really works down to the point where people are so amazed, and they don't, they're not taking 20 or 30 medications. Because my goal is to eventually, I personally like to do metabolic health, including, like with diet and, and exercise and things like that, but getting people healthy in that way. And like for me is to de-prescribe medication. So I just think that, medicine is needed in some cases, but in so many cases it's so overprescribed, and they've got them so conditioned to want that. And when we can be doing things for ourselves in a natural way, the way God intended for us to make ourselves
That's excellent.
feel better.
Yeah.
So
Now, you brought up something, you said native. Can you explain to the people that have really honestly no idea,
what native
what are
is.
we talking about? How do you explain what this is to a new patient?
So when I say native to the body, it's because you already have it in your body. So yeah, I mean, I always explain to everybody, you're born with trillions of them. And as you age, they diminish. And so when you actually, since the molecules have actually been stabilized outside the body, when you ingest them, they go to where they need to go. Like they already know. And understanding that, a vitamin or any, CBD oil or anything else that's out there on the market that is, natural, your body, it's not native to the body. So your body still has to figure out what to do with that. And, it doesn't matter which vitamin you take, and so then they're like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah. So like it's made of salt and water. And going through the process, it's put back in as redox. It's, turned back into the redox molecules, which your body really needs, and honestly, there's no sin here. I don't have wrinkles. Yeah. And I'm 53 years old. So, I use it on my skin every single day, twice a day, and it works. And so it's like people don't understand too. Skin is an organ, just like all the organs inside. So you have to take care of your whole body. And that means, staying hydrated, eating the right foods, eating real foods. To me, if it grows and God intended for you to eat that, it doesn't come in a box. So, it's the whole person. You have to understand how you can take care of yourself in the whole. So, but yeah, that's how I usually explain it to people.
Now, Dr. Walker, you also have your master's in nutrition, correct? Can you kind of touch on that real quick with the nutraceuticals that ASEA came out with, and how important that is to the body, and how a lot of the vegetables and fruits that we have today are pretty much nutritionally not where they used to be 30, 40, 50 years ago, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make one comment on what Lisa was talking about people taking too many medications. You know, in the ER, we saw a lot of elderly in the ER because, quite frankly, a lot of people that are sick or old, they come to the hospital with emergencies. And gosh, the average patient was probably on a dozen different medications. It would fill up a whole, printer sheet. And it was, to try to figure out what the heck was going on was dang near impossible unless you had an artificial intelligence program. And so when I would admit somebody to the hospital, I would go through there and eliminate 9 out of 10 of them. I would pick a few that I thought they were really maybe keeping them alive. Everything else I'd throw away, take off the list. And you know what would happen is overnight they'd get a lot better just by taking a lot of that medicine away. So we are a heavily over-medicated society with chemicals and prescription drugs. But we're an under nutrition country because most of us don't get the right kind of nutrition. And the good-looking fruits and vegetables at the grocery store often do not, they look good, they taste good, but they often don't have what I call the nutritional density that you need, or the density that those same fruits and vegetables and grains had, 50 to 100 years ago. The soils are depleted. They use industrial type fertilizer on them. It helps to get the organic stuff, but even the stuff that's labeled organic just means it passed certain criteria, still growing in the same soil most of the time. They just don't use as many chemicals on it. And so you really have to be careful about what you're eating. And it's almost impossible. I guess I'll just say it is impossible to get everything you need just in eating, because you'd have to eat so much you'd weigh 400 pounds. So you have to supplement with high quality nutritional supplements. But on the flip side of that, your best is to take nutritional supplements that are made from concentrated real food, not a chemical that's made in a factory or something that's artificially built in a fermentation vat or something. So the ASEA nutritionals are all made from whole real foods. And they're condensed there so that you don't have to eat that huge volume, but you can get the amount of nutrition that you would get in a healthy diet from whole food sources. And that's why the nutraceuticals, the products that ASEA have, are so good. And then, the biome doesn't quite fall into that category, but, along with gaining a better understanding of redox signaling and cellular communication, the world has also, in the last 10 years, gained a much better understanding of how important the biome is in our gut. The different bacteria are actually, number one, they're responsible for metabolizing some of our food to make the nutrients available that's in the food so that we can actually absorb them and use them. And it's amazing the different health benefits of certain types of bacteria growing in our lower intestines. It's like a giant compost heap in there that's digesting our food and to a large degree keeping us healthy in a number of different areas. So the biome is a very, very important nutraceutical as well, in a different way from what the micronutrients are in our other products. But food-based is really, really important, and we have a great system there. And I think ASEA is going to be coming out with some new additions to that over the next year or so that we're all looking forward to. So yeah, ASEA is becoming a total cellular health company. We have the cell signaling, and now we're getting more and more of the micronutrients, the building blocks for repairing and building new cells, which is really important. One thing I would like to mention that I think I gained through my, nutritional education and preventive medicine and just living life, but also in dealing with ASEA, is how absolutely phenomenal our bodies are at fixing and repairing. And I think a lot of physicians lose sight of that. A lot of physicians think that you can't be healthy unless you have a physician to kind of tweak this and tinker with that. But in fact, our bodies are an amazing, amazing machines at being able to repair and keep us going. If our body didn't do what it did naturally, none of us would reach puberty, I mean, it's fantastic what it does. And ASEA makes it do it better. And that's one of the reasons why, that's probably the main reason why ASEA is so great at helping people turn their health around, because it enables our systems to do what they know how to do, but they can't do it with the tools that they have. But when you give it extra tools, extra redox molecules, it can start to accomplish amazing things. So.
Exactly. And, we know this is the safest thing on the planet. And I've got a friend on tonight. It's her very first weekend to even sample the molecules. And she is experiencing what you saw change with your blood pressure. But maybe y'all can, as a group of medical professionals, everyone included, can share about why it's important to minimum give it 90 days, set expectations that, 90% see a change in 90 days. But some stuff, like you mentioned, your own, take longer, and that you need to give the body time to regenerate, 75 trillion cells. So maybe all of y'all could address the importance of giving the body time, making sure you're taking enough. And if you're not taking enough, like Lisa said, up your dose, and you'll see where your sweet spot is, and you'll see some amazing results like Jim and I have seen. We're both on minimum 12 ounces a day. We didn't start out like that in the beginning, but we know that it's what's keeping us so healthy, and it's arming our body with the best defense. So maybe y'all can take it away on that.
Jerry?
Yeah. Did you have a question? No.
Share.
What is your opinion?
Share about the 90% see a change.
We're gosh,
Expectations.
this is the fastest time ever when we have more people. So real quick, what are your thoughts?
Well, the key here is
That's a dangerous question to ask Jerry. Now you got to be careful.
it could
And it's
get a
multiple
little out of
involved,
hand
too.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we love him.
Here's the interesting thing is that the wonder of life. If you go back to the story, Mary Shelley wrote a book a long time ago called Frankenstein, and they put all the pieces together. And you could put all of the materials in the correct way, or somebody who's just passed on from this life. And you could make everything happen chemically in the right way, but something is incredibly missing. We don't know how to put all this stuff together. We don't know how to make a cell divide into another cell. If we had to just say, okay, class, you're going to start here, and at the end of the semester, you will have made new life. Ain't going to happen. It's way too complex. But if you look around, it happens every day. In every seed that grows into a plant, in every animal that develops, and in people. It happens in this miraculous way. And there are hundreds of trillions of different pieces of information that have to pass in order for all of that to work. So this is very different. What this is it's supplying the communication tools for all those amazing parts to talk to each other. Now, if we stand back in our medical brilliance and try to fix something by honing it down into one small deal and force everything in the body to do what we need for this little section, so we take those symptoms away, all the rest of the body's going, dude, we're not even involved in that. But you give us this stuff and makes us have to react in this way. I mean, you can just imagine it's going, oh man, who's the moron driving this ship? But if you put it into the cells are designed to be able to take absolutely instantaneous information, compare, and tell whether it's doing something right or not. We don't. So one way to look at it from my perspective as a coach and a physical therapist, let's start thinking about absolutely going way beyond lack of symptoms. Go to something that maybe we call so healthy, it's health beyond danger. That your body is going back to just bouncing back, getting up, just going for it. And in order to do that, I'm going to shock all of you. Did you know that you can take all the ASEA in the world and you still need to sleep once in a while? You need to let the systems do the work. How many farmers do you know that plant a seed and then every day they go, I don't think this is working. They pull the seed up and they start pulling on it and put a little stretcher in there and maybe pump a little something. No, you let those systems work, and the human system is by far the most complex, amazing thing we ever heard of. And when we're putting this together, we have to sleep, you have to hydrate, got to have that replacement stuff that works there. The nutrients have to be there and be available so that when you add the ASEA as the contractor that knows what to do with all these things, they're available to use. And then just step back and watch the magic. That's what makes this so pervasively huge, because it happens on an individual cellular basis. And if you want to make it really crazy in your own mind, every single cell in your body has to make its own energy. It has to adapt to its own world. It has to do what it was designed to do, and then it has to make another one to replace it. It has to repair when the repair bill comes along. Each cell has to do all that. So imagine the communication in the 75 trillion cells, but then they have to communicate with each other. So when we stepped across the line that said it's not just pouring a bunch of chemicals together, let's take some horse meat and throw it in there, and then we'll throw in some stuff out of the radishes, and then we'll do something from over here. That's sort of what it's like to give people the nutrients and all that sort of stuff. This is different, ladies and gentlemen. This is allowing these miraculous life entities to interact with each other and adjust to a changing world.
Wow.
Excellent.
That was
Anybody
awesome,
else to
Jerry.
input?
Dr. Walker?
Yeah,
Set
well,
expectations. I forgot what the question was, but that was awesome. Setting correct expectations. How do you tell people? I mean, we advise it's a life choice. You know, it's not just get better and quit. How do you tell people how to do this, Doc?
Well, good question. Because I fielded a phone call today. Somebody heard that taking ASEA, and I didn't have to take blood pressure medicine anymore. And so he's been on it for 6 weeks, and he's already wanting to stop his blood pressure medicine. And he said, when I check it, my blood pressure is fine. And I said, yeah, but you're taking medicine to make it fine, in addition to you're taking the ASEA. So I said, I don't want you to stop any medicine without talking to your doctor first. And I don't want you stopping any medicine all at once without supervision and stuff, because I didn't stop medicine until I was passing out, for gosh sakes. You got to make sure that ASEA's had time to do its job before you quit medicines like that. So be sure not to overcorrect, I guess. You have to give ASEA time to work. Your body works as quickly as it can. It's a little bit different for everybody because it depends on how damaged your cells are. It depends on how many cells you have that are near death and have to be resuscitated or replaced. And it's different for everybody. And the older you are, maybe the longer it takes. The older you are, the more product that you need. I never take less than 8 ounces a day. It seems like in our house, a bottle disappears about once a day, which means between Nancy and I, we're taking probably 16 ounces. And we don't count them. We just make sure we get it 3 times a day. I think the first thing in the morning, that dose when everything's empty and you're starting your day, is a great time to take it. I also think that in the evening is a great time to take some, because your body does most of its healing at night. It's too busy doing stuff during the day, climbing mountains and rafting rivers and stuff like that to heal. So it has to do that when you're sleeping, like Jerry says. And I'm one of those ones who used to say, I don't want to sleep, I got too much stuff to do. And then we started studying sleep and realized that sleep really was important, that you needed to get a minimum of 6 hours, and probably better 7 and 8 for some people, because your body needs it. We evolved to sleep part of the day. A bunch of birds sit on a tree, and all the ones in the middle sleep, but one on each end has to keep that outside eye open to know when something's happening. But the other half of their brain goes to sleep. Isn't that interesting? So our brains need sleep and recovery, but give it time. That's why I like people to do at least a 90-day trial. 3 to 6 months is a perfect time period to realize that this is working for you. Be sure and fill out the wellness tracker so that you know what you're looking, what's improving, because people will focus on one thing. There's one thing about their health they want to improve. They probably have 6 or 7 or 8 different things that aren't right in their body, but they're just focused on one thing. And when that one thing doesn't seem to be responding in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, then they say, oh, this isn't working. That's why it's important to do the results tracker, because it is working. And there's probably 2 or 3 or 4 things that have started to improve, but you're not paying any attention to it. And if you fill out that results tracker and then revisit that at 2 weeks and 4 weeks and 6 weeks, you're going to say, oh, yeah, I am sleeping better. Oh, yeah, I do. I don't have to take that afternoon nap, or I'm not needing that afternoon cup of coffee to stay awake, or, so really pay attention to things like that, because that's what we mean when we say the ASEA is working, because it's improving your health in sort of subtle little ways. And then over time, it can improve it in really big and important ways as more and more of your cells are replaced and repaired, as those biochemical processes that Jerry was talking about, and they are absolutely mind-bogglingly complex. They're starting to synchronize, and they're starting to work the way they're supposed to, the way they were when you were much younger. All of a sudden, your total health is responding, and you're heading towards that target that Jerry's referring to of total wellness, complete wellness, beyond not being sick. Just the absence of illness is not wellness. The absence of illness should be a starting point for going beyond that. And ASEA and exercise and sleep and the right nutrition is going to get you there over time.
Yeah, and don't you lose
Wow.
60% of your immune system? Doesn't it drop by losing 2 hours a night of sleep? I mean, that's the vitality of
The importance of sleep.
yeah. I mean, it's important to get an adequate amount of sleep to repair. So
Yeah, and
that's
here's
great.
something else you got to remember is like Dick said, you have to move.
Yep.
And your body will reward you when you move. And you have to breathe, and you have to breathe deeply and breathe well. And you have to hope and wonder, and you have to have some good loving, and you have to interact with other human beings, and you have to express and to grow internally as a human being. Now, if you look at the entirety of ASEA, why we get so cranked up, it's not just because some chemicals are reacting with some chemicals. It's when human beings are achieving and being on board for their potential. And then our new slogan is, we power potential. And that potential is far beyond the lack of symptoms. And so it's a challenge. Let's take this challenge and run with it to go not, and I love what you go beyond sickness, beyond health. Why don't we go to, instead of wellness, let's go to wholeness. Next, it's next.
Jerry mentioned the importance of exercise. I was reading an article about 6 months ago. I'll go to PubMed and start looking around, just trying to look for new knowledge. And I came across a couple of papers that were talking about how important exercise was. And these are physiologists, these are intelligent people working in the field that were saying, look, lack of exercise is worse than smoking. And they said, and in fact, they've done studies on smokers who exercise and non-smokers who don't. And the smokers that exercise have better health parameters than the non-smokers who sit on their butt all day. And in fact, Apple has even gotten this. I've got an Apple Watch, and if I sit on my butt for too long, it tells me, get up and walk around.
That reminds me of one of my favorite sayings that comes up every now and then. So we got to throw it out here, and then we got to get Lisa to chime in. But it says, you can't leave footprints in the sands of time when you're sitting on your butt. And who wants to leave butt prints in the sands of time?
So
I love it, Jerry.
Yeah,
Lisa,
I
go ahead.
agree. the moving, the get up and moving and stuff, because people, when I was a bedside nurse, people would get so mad at us, especially after surgery. They'd be like, you're getting me up, you're moving me around. And I'm like, well, you don't realize how quick your muscles atrophy by laying in a bed. It happens quickly. So, and so getting people up and getting them moving, because the statement of you don't use it, you lose it is a very true statement. And so just the getting up and moving around, and people are like, oh, I can't do this. I can't run a mile. It doesn't matter. Just get up and walk. Just move your joints, because, they get stiff. And if you don't get up and move around, you're going to lose that. So you have to keep the mobility going. So.
Real quick, how do you set?
Here's a
Go ahead,
great
Jerry.
quote. Here's a great quote that the military used at one time or another, about the word can't. And people who say that I can't do this, I can't do that. And it says, let's say we're all sitting around a foxhole and we're talking about how, every world's bad, everything's doing anything. So in the foxhole, the bad guys are coming up over the horizon. You can see them coming. They're 50 yards away, and you got to come up with some ideas. And so everybody in that foxhole, we say, who's got a plan? Who's got an idea? We can't care what you can't do. So if we were to adopt the concept that we can't care what you can't do, get over it, let's move forward, we'd change our world real quickly.
Exactly.
And guys, we've been given a gift with the Renew 28 gel. Lisa, do you do this in your practice where you actually have people that have any level of discomfort and give them an experience really quick with the gel?
To be really honest, I actually work virtually now. So I don't get any hands-on with patients. Well, but do I do it with other people when I'm out and about? Yes, I do give them.
And then I'll have anybody take the challenge of a 30-day challenge or even a one-day challenge. One-day challenge, Jerry White has coached us, is go out and share it with 10 people. Find 10 people that have any level of owies or discomfort. And then you'll get 9 of them that have big. But the other challenge is what I'll tell a guy, I won't tell a lady to do this, is do half your face of the gel for 30 days. I dare you. And if anybody does a before and after picture after 30 days, you can't deny what this stuff does, right, Jerry?
Yeah, and I guess if you're going to go out and try it on 10 people and you just say, look, I'm just doing a survey, and they've asked me whether the world's getting smarter or it's not, and say, so I'd like to have you, have an experience on this. And so here's the deal. Put it on, a move, assess, determine how much did it hurt or what am I limited in, and then put it on and then try it again. Because this is an IQ test. It only works for the most intelligent people. And so if I write down here on the right-hand column of my plate, you're too, it only works on the most intelligent people.
Jerry, people are going to think you mean that. You better let them know.
Yeah.
Real quick, Lee, can you, in maybe a minute, why is this not an FDA-related controlled substance, or Maureen?
Well, the reason it's not an FDA, it's FDA overseen in the sense that it's a supplement, and we have to comply to rules. And that's why we don't talk about diseases and we make the disclaimers that we do. But this is a supplement, and it is not a drug. It's not controlled by prescriptive authority. It's not done under the supervision of physicians. But it was so safe. The safety margins on it were so wide and broad that they could not obtain a drug clearance, meaning you have to have a lethal dose certificate where you actually can kill mice in the lab by increasing the dose. And it was not possible to do that because that's one of the basic tenets of this, is that it absolutely is non-toxic. It does not activate the inflammatory pathway. It does just the opposite. It dampens it down, and so much so that we can make that claim on the side of the bottle. The last thought is people think this is magic. It's not really magic. It's just we're following the rules of how the body works. These are native molecules, and we've just found a way to kind of put the genie back in the bottle, if you will. We can put molecules back into the body that it uses to regulate these cellular processes. And over time, it improves that functioning, and it's a preventive thing as well as it rights the ship and repairs the ship. So
Well, guys,
Awesome
we are at the
conclusion.
top of the hour. This has been a blast.
Yeah.
It is so cool to have everybody here. Hopefully we didn't have anybody feel shorted that we didn't give you enough time, but this was fun. Stick around for the Aussies, but I am going to make the announcement of who we have on next week. And we
Yeah.
have our founder, Tyler Norton. We will be spending 60 minutes with him next week. And I wanted to ask Dr. Walker and Jerry, but we don't have time. But your impressions of the founders of this company. If you want to get totally impressed and understand why we are so passionate about what we have, you must join us next Friday.
Yeah.
Don't
And
miss
bring
that.
everybody you know onto this call, because when you understand why we have this, you can't say no, right, Doc?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
This will be
don't miss
awesome.
that opportunity. I know where I'm going to be next Friday.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah. So guys, thank you so much.
The Aussies.
Stick around
Thank
for the
you.
Aussies.
hi, everybody.
Bye.
Everybody,
Thank you guys. God bless.
Yeah.
y'all were
See you next
awesome.
week.